The worst way to invest in real estate. That is what you're going to discover on this video. Hi, I'm Phil Pustiovsky with Freedom Mentor. I'm a full-time real estate investor, coach, mentor. You can learn a whole lot more about us at freedommentor.com. Also, check out my book, How to Be a Real Estate Investor, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all that good stuff. Okay, the worst way to invest in real estate. This video is about what not to do if you're going to be a real estate investor or if you already are investing. And can't that be pretty helpful sometimes? Can't it be nice to know what not to do? That way you can avoid some of the bigger mistakes. Well, that's what you're going to discover. And if you're first getting started, be very appreciative that you watched this video, because it can remove a lot of heartache and a lot of problems that could occur. Okay, so why am I qualified to share this with you? Well, I guess if you've watched any of these other YouTube videos of mine, you can probably tell that this isn't my first rodeo. I've been doing this a very long time. I coach and train and mentor people all across the country. I literally have hundreds of questions coming at me, basically weekly, whether it be comments below a YouTube video, whether it be emails or messages from my students, whether it be even my own friends and family calling me and my own deals. And so I have a lot of things coming at me all the time, and I am literally seeing so many different deals. I have such a unique vantage point. A vantage point that most people would never have in their lifetime, because I get to see what's going on all around the country, and I get to see what's happening. Good deals, bad deals, everything in between. Now, I'm also a full-time real estate investor as well, and I buy properties from people who don't want their properties anymore. And let me tell you, when you deal with distressed real estate, you hear a lot of stories. You hear what goes wrong. You hear the bad side. So I've heard thousands of these stories over the time I've been investing. So not only do I have the background to teach you this, and you can check out the comments on my book, you can see what other people think of my trainings. And that is, it's the highest quality. I mean, I get comments all the time, Phil, you're a true teacher. But it's more than that. It's the fact that I've been through the gauntlet and back with my own deals, and I've talked to so many motivated sellers over the years that have had things go wrong. So all that put together to say one simple thing. What I'm about to share with you can be absolute financially life-saving, because I've seen a lot of deals go bad. And so this is the secret to avoiding investing the wrong way. And here it is. Don't get involved in deals you don't understand. I'm going to write that down. Don't get involved, and I'm going to break this down. I'm going to break this sentence down. In deals you don't understand. That is the secret. That's how you avoid this, okay? Now I'm going to break this down. I want to break down what I mean by getting involved, what I mean by deals, and what I mean by don't understand. I'm going to break all that down. But first, let's talk about real estate investing as a whole. Very different from other types of investments. You know, if you go buy a stock or a bond, I want you to think about this for a second. Let's go say you go buy a publicly traded stock. You're going to buy Apple stock. What is the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen? Apple goes bankrupt, kind of like Enron did many years ago, and you literally lose your entire investment. So you put up $10,000 to buy Apple stock, Apple goes out of business, they go bankrupt, and you make nothing, right? That's the worst that can happen, correct? All right. What's the worst that can happen in real estate? Do you even know? Oh boy. Well, let me give you some examples of what can go wrong. I have a friend of mine who is a developer. He develops commercial real estate. That's what he's always done. In fact, he does the big box retailer kind of shopping centers. If you've ever seen them before, big Target shopping centers. He'll do some smaller deals with groups like Walgreens, but Lowe's. He does these big box retailers, Walmart. He'll develop them He'll move all the tenants in there. Once he's got the entire space developed and all rented, he'll sell the property. That's been his business for a very long time. Well, real quick story. He had an opportunity to develop some land, and the city planners, many of which he had known from childhood, and one of the major key decision makers he actually was a good friend of in high school, wanted him to develop some residential property. And he said, look, I don't do that. That's not my style. I'm a commercial guy. And they said, but man, this is a great deal. We'll give you a great reduction in taxes. After you develop the property, we'll leave the property taxes at the same price that they were before you did development. So they really enticed him, and he said, you know, gosh, what a good deal. How can I go wrong? So he went and developed some residential condos. And long story short, the market collapsed, and since he had never done it before, there's many things that he didn't recognize were at play. Number one, a lot of pre-construction condo buyers came in and made offers and actually confused him and his team, and they thought there was a lot more demand than there was. Long story short, the entire development crumbled. Now, he had put up a down payment, and that's what you do in real estate, right? You go get a loan, but you put up a down payment, and then the loan is going to take care of the rest of the project, whether you're buying a rental property or you're doing some big development. The next thing that happened was not only did it start to fold, but the city did not go along with their deal, and they raised up the property taxes. So he was in real trouble. So while he was trying to negotiate maybe a loan remodification with the bank sold the note to a collections company, and they bought that note for much less than what he owed. And long story short, that collections company went after him personally for over I think it was somewhere in the range of $4 to $5 million. So not only did he lose his millions in down payment and all that time, but now they're coming after him. Now, you know, he's dealing with that, but and hopefully, you know, he's able to mitigate some of that. And I don't use any names or anything because he's in the middle of it right now. But in real estate, if something goes wrong, it can go really, 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 really wrong. And you don't just lose the millions you put in, you could even lose more. Does that make sense? Now, that doesn't happen with a stock. The stockholders don't, I mean, if the company goes bankrupt, they don't come to the stockholders and ask for more money. But that can happen in real estate. I'm not trying to scare you, by the way. This video is not to frighten somebody. It's to give you the right information so that you can wisely navigate this business and not get yourself in any trouble. Does that make sense? Okay, another good example of that. Let's say you own a condo, and let's say you bought it and you're renting it out, so you're owning it for a long-term purpose. Do you realize that many of these condo HOAs, they can literally just tell all the condo owners, hey, we're going to replace the roof. We need an extra X number of dollars. You owe us $3,000. Everybody in the condo complex owes us $3,000. Did you know they can do that? Oh yes, many of them can. So in other words, owning real estate is not like any other investment because there's so much more going on that you can lose your entire investment and then some. That makes sense? Okay, so getting involved in a deal, let me describe what that would be. That's really two things. That's either your money or your credit. Does that make sense? Money or credit. And so hopefully this doesn't get too confusing here, but this is either going to be money or credit. So if you get a loan for a property, that's your credit. If you put a down payment, earnest money, anything, that's money. That's what it means to get involved. So if you don't have any of your own cash or credit into a deal, and there's no downside risk, meaning if you lose the property, it doesn't hurt your credit. All you do is you lose whatever you put into it, and if you didn't put any money into it, you don't lose any money, then you're not technically all that involved, are you? So the first detail would be if you're first getting started, or you don't really know what you're getting into, then if you don't really understand the deal, then just don't get fully involved. You know, so many of the deals that I first got started on were deals where there was no money or credit involved. So even though I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into, there wasn't much downside risk. Does that make sense? So that's one way in which you alleviate this. So getting involved is money and credit. Don't understand, here's what this means. you don't understand all of the risks, okay? I just mentioned to you this idea that a development that went bad, all of a sudden the developer could be owing an extra $6 million. He could lose his house, his basically his retirement, everything, right? So if you know what the risks are, you can still evaluate if you want to go take that on, right? But at least you understand the risks. Or an example I gave of a condo, and really just in general, I'll say this. Owning a home is kind of wild. There's a property I did a deal on not too long ago where the city wanted to put in a sewer system because all of the homes were on septic tanks, but every other subdivision around it was on sewer. And that city said that every homeowner had to pay $20,000 to help put in the sewer system. I'm not kidding. $20,000. That's very rare. That may not happen in your lifetime, but I've seen it happen. So, knowing what the risks are is huge. If you're going to get into a rental property, you need to know the risks. Rental units can be very tricky. Tenants can get in there and then not pay you and then just camp out, and through legal wranglings can keep you tied up for several months, if not longer. And then you may have to pay the underlying payment. So if you're going to own a rental, you need to know what you're getting yourself into. I mean, you need to know that there is going to be a possibility that if they don't pay you for 4 months, how are you going to cover those payments? I mean, I have met real estate investors that have lost 200 homes. 200 homes. All because they bought a bunch of rental properties. Many of them had a really thin margin, and then a lot of them went vacant all at the same time, and all of a sudden they couldn't fill the vacancies fast enough. I can give you all sorts of wild stories. Stories like there's a big subdivision where one person thought he was really smart and he bought up hundreds of homes. It was a huge subdivision. Bought hundreds of homes, and he wanted to have a monopoly basically. Well, what happened was when he went to lease all these things out, he ended up having a problem not being able to lease them out very easily, so he started dropping the rents. As he dropped the rents, he brought in a different caliber of people. The place turned into a ghetto, and it was almost a brand new subdivision. They had to bring in a new police station just for the subdivision. The property values never came back up. There's spray paint, graffiti all over a bunch of vacant homes. And it was all because he thought he was so smart that he was going to buy all these single-family homes in the same subdivision to make his management life easier. Didn't see that coming, did he? So again, he didn't fully understand what he was really getting himself into. Okay, so when you understand all the risks associated with the deal, then you can make better decisions. And then that way, you can still take the deal on. You can still decide to get involved maybe, but at least you know what you're getting into. I'll give you a great example a lot of people don't think of. They look at tax lien investing, where what you do is you pay money because somebody else didn't pay their property taxes, and you get a, quote, guaranteed rate of return. Well, you've got to be careful because you've got to know exactly what your specific rules are in that county, and you need to know what happens on the worst case scenario. And so I want to write this down. This is, what is worst case scenario? So I know in my area, I'll tell you what the worst case scenario is on a tax lien. You buy a tax lien, they don't redeem it, so you can, quote, get the property back. You take it to tax deed sale, you get the property back, now you're stuck with it, and nobody wants to buy it because it's some weird sliver of land that nobody wanted to buy anyways, which is why you couldn't have gotten any more money at the tax deed auction. And then all of a sudden the county wants you to be mowing it, they want you to keep it up, you decide not to do that, they start fining you, and all of a sudden it goes right back into tax deed auction because you didn't pay the taxes because you didn't want that thing to begin with, you wanted your money back. Okay. What's all that mean if you didn't track all that? What's the worst case scenario? What is that? That is what you get to when you want to understand a property, is understanding what the worst case scenario is. Okay, so what is the worst way to invest in real estate? It's to get involved in deals you don't understand. What's the best way to do it? It's to make sure you understand the worst case scenario and you understand what it means to be getting involved in the deal. And that is money and credit. That's what the main key drivers are there. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I would like to request something from you as a big favor. Do you have any war stories, horror stories? Deals that went bad. They don't have to be yours, by the way. It can be somebody you know. Share with me below in the YouTube comment box. Tell us some stuff. Now, we don't have much room because they kind of limit it, but give us a little indication of some horror stories that you've dealt with, or you've seen somebody deal with, like the worst case scenarios. You know, there's all sorts of examples you'll probably have about people who try to do a rehab deal and then tried to hire a contractor, paid the contractor didn't show up, didn't pick up their cell phone again, and next thing you know, you're out the money, and now the property is halfway finished and ends up going to foreclosure. So there's plenty of those, and I'm sure you can point to those. There's obviously the worst case scenario where properties went down in value. People bought it at the top of the market, now it's at the bottom. But I love hearing about these horror stories because it teaches me a whole lot. There's such a great learning lesson that can be grabbed from so many bad deals. And especially if they weren't your deals, right? If it was somebody else's deal, then you got to learn the lesson without having to pay the money. Perfect. All right. So, that is the worst way to invest in real estate. Do deals you don't understand. And I'm Phil Pustiovsky with FreedomMentor.com. I want to appreciate you. Thank you for checking this video out. Check out our other videos as well. I get a lot of great comments. People tell me that the way I share the message of real estate investing really connects, gives them a lot of aha moments. So if it does that for you, please comment as well. You'll notice that I comment back. I really enjoy conversing with those that watch these videos. Again, Phil Pustiowski with FreedomMentor.com. Thanks for tuning in.